What's your very first memory? The earliest thing you can remember from your childhood. Not a story someone told you, not a memory from a photo, but a real, lived moment that you experienced. Take a second and think about it. What do you see? Where are you? How old are you? What are you feeling? Most people's first memories form between ages 2 and 4. And here's what's fascinating. Your brain didn't save that memory randomly. Out of thousands of moments from your early childhood, your mind chose to preserve that one. And the reason it did reveal something profound about you. Today we're exploring what your first memory says about your core needs, your deepest fears, and the lens through which you see the world. Before we analyze what your first memory means, let's talk about why you have it at all. Most people can't remember anything before age 2 or 3. This is called childhood amnesia. Your brain was forming memories during that time, but they weren't stored in a way you can consciously access as an adult. Your earliest memories emerge around the time you develop language and a sense of self. But here's the key. Your brain doesn't save memories based on importance or drama. It saves memories based on emotional significance. The moments that made you feel something strongly, whether good or bad, are the ones that stick. Your first memory isn't necessarily your first experience. It's the first experience your developing brain decided mattered enough to keep. First memories tend to fall into certain categories. Some people's earliest memory is of fear or danger. Maybe you remember falling, getting hurt, or being scared. Others remember separation or loss, being left somewhere, a parent leaving, feeling alone. Some remember joy or wonder, a birthday, playing, discovering something magical. And some remember shame or embarrassment, being scolded, feeling exposed, doing something wrong. The emotional tone of your first memory often reveals your core emotional pattern. If your first memory is fearful, your nervous system may have learned early to scan for danger. If it's about abandonment, you might carry that fear into your relationships. If it's joyful, you might have a foundational sense of safety. Let's start with memories of fear or danger. If your earliest memory is of being hurt, scared, or in danger, what does that tell us? Your brain encoded that moment because it felt threatening, and that makes sense from a survival perspective. Your nervous system was learning what to watch out for, but it also means your earliest emotional imprint is one of the world being unsafe. People whose first memories involve fear often grow up with heightened anxiety. They scan their environment for threats. They're vigilant, cautious, sometimes hyper-aware of what could go wrong. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means your system learned early to protect you, but it might also mean you carry more anxiety than necessary now, even when you're safe. If your first memory involves separation, being left, or feeling alone, that's significant. Maybe you remember a parent leaving for work and you cried. Maybe you got lost in a store. Maybe you felt invisible or forgotten. These memories often point to abandonment anxiety. Your brain held on to that moment because the fear of being alone felt monumental. And that fear likely still lives in you today. People with early memories of separation often struggle with attachment. They fear being left. They need reassurance. They might become anxious when people pull away or need space. Your first memory taught you that connection is fragile and people can disappear. And your adult relationships might still be shaped by that early fear. Now, if your first memory is positive, joyful, or full of wonder, that's a different story. Maybe you remember your birthday party, playing with a toy, or discovering something amazing. This suggests that your early environment felt safe enough for you to experience joy. Your brain saved that moment not because it was threatening, but because it was emotionally rich and positive. People whose first memories are joyful often have a more optimistic baseline. They approach life expecting good things. They're more likely to feel secure in relationships and trust that things will work out. This doesn't mean their life was perfect, but it suggests that in those early formative years, they experienced enough safety and love to encode a positive first memory. If your earliest memory involves shame, being scolded, or feeling embarrassed, pay attention. Maybe you remember being yelled at, doing something wrong, or feeling exposed in front of others. These memories are particularly powerful because shame is such a visceral emotion. It affects how we see ourselves. People whose first memory involves shame often carry deep feelings of being bad, wrong, or not good enough. They might be perfectionists, constantly trying to avoid doing something wrong. They might struggle with self-criticism or fear of judgment. That first experience of shame became a blueprint. Your brain learned early that you could be bad, and you've been trying to prove you're good ever since. So what does your first memory say about your core needs? If your memory is about fear, your core need is safety. You need to feel secure, protected, and out of danger. If it's about abandonment, your core need is connection. You need to know people won't leave you, that you matter, that you're not alone. If it's about joy, your core need is freedom to explore and express. You thrive when you feel safe enough to be curious and alive. And if it's about shame, your core need is acceptance. You need to know you're good enough, that you're not fundamentally flawed, that you can make mistakes and still be loved. Your first memory isn't just a random moment, it's a window into what your soul has been seeking ever since. Your first memory also shapes the lens through which you see the world. If you encoded fear, you might see the world as dangerous. You approach new situations with caution. If you encoded abandonment, you see relationships as fragile. You're always watching for signs someone might leave. If you encoded joy, you see possibility. You expect good things and approach life with openness. And if you encoded shame, you see yourself as the problem. You assume when things go wrong, it's because you're not enough. This lens isn't reality. It's a filter formed by one early experience, but it colors everything. Understanding this can help you recognize when you're seeing through that old lens instead of seeing what's actually in front of you. Now, here's an important caveat. Your first memory doesn't define you completely. It's not destiny. It's one data point, one emotional imprint, but it's a significant one because it was formed when your brain was developing its fundamental understanding of the world. Think of it as your emotional baseline. The default setting your nervous system returns to under stress, but you're not stuck with it. You can recognize the pattern, understand where it came from, and consciously choose different responses. If your first memory is of fear, you can learn to feel safe. If it's abandonment, you can learn secure attachment. If it's shame, you can learn self-compassion. The memory doesn't have to be a life sentence. So what do you do with this information? First, sit with your first memory. Don't judge it, just observe it. What were you feeling? What were you needing that you didn't get? Then ask yourself, does this pattern still show up in my life? Do I still carry that fear, that abandonment anxiety, that shame? If yes, start working with it. Talk to a therapist about it. Journal about it. When you notice yourself reacting from that old place, pause and remind yourself, I'm not that child anymore. The world is different now. I am different now. Your first memory has power only if it remains unconscious. Once you see it, understand it, and recognize its influence, you can begin to rewrite the story. Your first memory is a gift. Not because the experience was necessarily good, but because it offers you insight into your deepest patterns. It shows you what your developing brain thought was important to remember. What emotion felt big enough to save? And in doing so, it reveals your core need, your primary fear, and the lens you've been using to understand the world. Whether your first memory is of fear, abandonment, joy, or shame, it doesn't define your worth. It's simply information, a clue about why you are the way you are. And now that you understand it, you have the power to decide what to do with it. You can honor that younger version of you who experienced that moment. And you can give yourself what that child needed but didn't receive. You're not trapped in your first memory, but understanding it can set you free.